Hi, and welcome to the last update and review. Today, we are tackling Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Will this sequel to Breath of the Wild actually hold up today? Guess we'll find out. Today, I got a very special guest with me. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Diamond Feit, and I continue to eat the beans no matter what the consequences.
Ah, that's good. Let's just kind of jump on into this. We're still a brand new podcast. For those who are just listening in or a little bit unaware of what we do at the last update and review, we take a game where there is no more DLC, no more updates. Everything is finally out, and we review the product as a whole. Today, though, I don't think we'll even get to a fourth of everything. There's so much to do in this game. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, they. I mean, we're kind of making assumptions here that they're not going to surprise us someday, but honestly, it's such a stuffed game. I can't imagine they need to. You know.
I do remember Nintendo actually saying on record they have no plans whatsoever to make DLC for Tears of the Kingdom. And they're not the type of people to kind of be like, surprise, we totally lied to you on things of that nature.
Well, I'm just saying they made that announcement before the Switch 2 announcement, and then when the Switch 2 edition came out, that did add some features and functionality, if not actual like new material. You know.
You are correct on that part. I didn't actually think about that far, but I'm kind of more thinking on like how Breath of the Wild had the champion ballads
Oh
packed
yeah.
with it, and they went absolutely kind of nuts with the updates on Breath of the Wild. Uh,
Oh yeah. Motorcycle, crazy.
So, if you are very curious if we're going to do spoilers, there will be a spoiler section, but for the first part, we're going to try and hold back, except for the parts that are literally at the beginning of the game. But we will let you know when we are delving into the spoilers and give a summed up review right before then. So, anyways, let's get on to it.
Link! Was that the sword that seals the darkness? The blade that shatters so easily against my power cannot save you from me. Zelda. You who carries that fragile sword are Link.
Diamond, what's your history with this game, real quick?
Well, I played Breath of the Wild when it was new, even though I wasn't a huge 3D Zelda fan. I was more into the 2D games. But when Breath of the Wild launched along with the Switch, the immediate reputation was, "Oh my goodness, you have to play this." And the Switch was new. I'm like, okay, well, I don't have a lot of games for this anyway, so let's try it. And it sucked me in completely. I was engrossed by it, and the fact that the Switch was, a hybrid home console and portable console. I would bring my Switch with me to work, and I would spend my lunch hour just like messing around with it. And everyone around my office was like, "Oh, because hey, the Switch was new." So it's like, "Oh wow, is that the Nintendo Switch? Oh wow, is that the new Zelda? This looks incredible." I was like, "Yeah, it's really great." So flash forward a couple of years, and they announced that they finally get the sequel out the door, and I'm already like, okay, well, I already know this game's gonna be pretty goddamn good because the last one was pretty goddamn good, unless they totally, I don't know, swerve left and decide that Link is now limbless and voiceless and can only roll around the ground. Like that would be pretty boring. And they didn't do that. They're like, okay, no, we're actually going to make this game like three Breaths of the Wilds in that we have the same basic overworld as last time, sure, but we also have an underground and we have a sky world, and there's lots of monsters everywhere, and we've really thought about a lot of new mechanics, and we have some new characters. And yeah, for me, I feel like it just outclassed the previous game in every regards, personally. So I was immediately took up on it, and as I played it more and more, I'm like, no, this is better. This is like a classic NES sequel to a game that had some weird things in it. Like, no, we're making it better now, even though it's borrowing and building on what we already built. We're building it better, and of course, building is a huge aspect of the game as well.
I very much agree with a lot what you're saying. I do feel like Tears of the Kingdom definitely is we have this really great blueprint, and the blueprint of Breath of the Wild is actually really good in my opinion.
Yes.
But they literally said, "What do we do to build upon this?" And it's more than there's a sky and slight spoilers, an underground section, but it's really they took the main mechanics of like time stasis and replaced it with brand new things that are really interesting. It it's a Zelda game that really makes you think outside the box, and if you thrive out thinking outside the box, you can succeed in ways that are monumentally just enjoyable and fun. Uh, we've seen so many compilations on like just the things people have built with these mechanics.
Yeah, and talk about boxes. You can, if you build the right box, it will solve a lot of your problems. I have seen people build boxes that essentially kill Gleeox. Just like, okay, I built this construction, put it down, it drives forward, and it basically swallows the dragon and kills them. It's like, okay, great, good job.
For those who don't know what we're talking about when it comes to building things, if you somehow stayed off Zelda long enough and you're just like, what are they actually talking about? In the game, you get several stasis, or not stasis, but abilities. That's the correct word. That uh, and the big ability is being able to like basically weld things together, which doesn't sound all that interesting. It gets very interesting really quickly, though. The other big ability, one that I would think would actually break this game, but turns out Nintendo's a really big genius on like spatial awareness, is to be able to go up through a platform and come up to the other end. You're like literally swimming through a wall, but you can only go upwards. You can't go to the side or like down below you. Uh, and that one I found very interesting. What did you think about that one, real quick?
Yeah, it's funny to me that the previous game, Breath of the Wild, like a huge part of Breath of the Wild is climbing and managing your vertical position and figuring out where you can go and where you can't go. And in this game, between the abilities and tools and again the devices you can build, that's kind of no longer an issue. Like of course you have to climb things. It's definitely you still climb stuff, but that's usually not the obstacle. The obstacle is now like, okay, where are we going? What's the right position you can be in? And yeah, if you find the right spot, where can you essentially jump up into? And there's even a little puzzle, which really, I mean, this blew my mind when it happened. I don't remember where this was, but in one of the shrine puzzles, I think there was an entire like gauntlet of laser grids, and it was literally like the Resident Evil movie slash Resident Evil 4 like laser thing where it's like, oh, you have to learn how to dodge the lasers, and the final gauntlet was just a giant laser grid that you can't possibly dodge, but you can jump up. It's like, oh, if I jump up like in the movie or in Resident Evil 4, I can dodge the lasers. And it was just a really cute little moment. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what these abilities can do. It doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter what they throw at you if you could just jump straight up.
Yeah, replaying this game for review, I actually ran across that exact same shrine, and I I kind of got a little giddy on like, oh, what am I supposed to do? I phase through upwards on that platform, and then I don't get zapped by the lasers. And it just they do a really good job on like making you feel clever. Uh, but this one, it seems like the solving the shrine. There are a couple exceptions, but it seems a bit more forward focus. Like you could experiment a little bit, but I found more and more there's like really only one answer on a lot of these shrines.
Yeah,
um
what they did with the shrines this time was very interesting because I think I have a hunch that they realized that in Breath of the Wild, they made these sort of combat tutorial shrines, but they just put them willy nilly around the world. So I remember I didn't find one until I'd been playing the game for like at least 12 hours. I was like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to do combat. Thanks. And they learned the lesson this time around, and now it's like they make sure that the all the combat stuff they want you to learn is very early in the game. And they kind of overcorrect a little bit in that all these tutorial shrines are now very much like do this exact thing right now. You cannot do this any other way. And that's kind of a bummer, but it's also like, okay, you're teaching me how to play the game. All right, I appreciate that. And then later on, you get these sort of more open-ended challenges where it's they basically took the island challenge of Breath of the Wild and they made little shrine versions of that where it's like you go into the shrine, all of a sudden you lose all your stuff. And it's like, okay, you lost all your stuff. How do you solve this problem? And you walk in the problem, and it's usually like, a lot of enemies or robots or some kind of platforming or build challenge. And it's like, but they take away all your stuff. It's like, okay, you have to do what you can do with what we give you right now. Go. And I found those generally enjoyable, even if they were a little irritating sometimes.
yeah, it those moments feel like almost like you're Rambo with in the wilderness with nothing but a knife. Go. Make your own traps with everything else, and be really usually really sneaky stealthily, and use your own creativity instead of just being like, oh, I got like a bunch of hearts and really good armor, I'm just gonna berserk everything. Going back to the abilities, and the other one that we haven't mentioned yet is kind of the least popular one, stitching two items together. And it seems like to me the one I use this the most with is either breaking down boulders or attaching stuff to my arrow.
Yeah, this is another huge aspect of the game for me because one of the things that we all sort of complained about to one degree or another was the fact that Breath of the Wild gave you all these weapons, but they all broke. So you're constantly sort of trying to figure out, okay, what can I use? What should I save? If I find these really cool items, how do I keep them around while when I still need to collect other things for specific situations? So I remember at the end of the game, like my like Link's house was full of this really cool gear that I went out and collected, but I didn't want to use. It was almost like, like an RPG where you have like 50 potions at the last boss. Like I basically had a house full of potions because like all these items, I love these items. I don't want to lose them, so I don't use them. It's like, no, you're supposed to use them. And Tears of the Kingdom solves that problem by basically telling you, okay, a calamity has happened. All the weapons suck now. Everything you pick up around the world is gonna it's degraded, it's gross, it's dirty, it's probably sticky, just it sucks. So what you solve the problem with is you take one of these crappy weapons and you stick anything to it and you instantly make it better. And of course, what you find is what you get. Like if you want to put like a tree branch or a rock on the end of your sword, like yeah, that's better than a naked sword. But if you take animal parts, well, geez, these animal parts make the sword a lot better. Or if you destroy one of these bosses that are roaming the world, if you put a boss part on top of this weapon, oof, now you've got a really strong weapon. Good job. And now, so instead of worrying about everything, it's like, okay, well, everything's breaking constantly. So just collect a bunch of stuff and you can make a new strong weapon pretty much anytime you want. And this also solved the problem for me, where in the first game, I keep saying the first game, Breath of the Wild, like monsters keep coming back. That's part of the gimmick. You can kill the monsters all you want, but they'll eventually come back. And since your equipment degrades, you kind of have this problem where you use your equipment to fight the monsters, but you eventually don't really get anything because the monsters give you like monster body parts, which are only valuable to like that one creep who buys them for you with a special currency that only he accepts. Like, there's a really weird economics of the Breath of the Wild. And this time around, you kill a monster, the monster drops monster parts, and you just use the monster parts to make your weapons better. And like, that's perfect. So now I kill the enemies and I get better stuff to kill more enemies. That's all I want. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and there are some parts that kind of make you scratch your head a little bit. There's a certain monster that we'll talk about in the spoiler section, but they drop a giant rock heart, and you think, what am I supposed to do with this? And then you attach it to your weapon, and you're like, oh, this makes the weapon so much stronger and better. And uh, it's not one of those like type of items that have the classic sound go off when you find an item or an item description with it either. Uh, and you get another one with that with this thing called a construct, which has a very interesting piece that it leaves. But moving on, we got another part of the abilities in the last one. Well, I shouldn't say last one. There's one more, but that one's kind of hidden, and we'll talk about it in the spoilers. The time stasis effect, where like in the first one, time stasis, you would freeze an object and build up energy to it, and then it would launch at the end of the cycle. This one, wherever it has moved, you reverse it in time. And this one I found really interesting because I was very curious when I first got this. I knew immediately, like, they're going to do some really cool puzzles with this thing.
Yeah, that for me was more of a puzzle solver than a combat thing. Although I know people have figured out ways to make it useful in combat, like returning projectiles back towards enemies. Like there's lots of things you can do with it, and kind of like everything in the game. Like the more time you spend with something and you experiment with it, you can do all sorts of wacky stuff. Personally, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not thinking as smart as other people, but I was mostly about, okay, this looks great for puzzle solving, and that'll do. Although, I guess another thing I found it very useful for was in launching myself off of heights. I would basically like set up the thing I want to launch and basically throw it and then rewind it and then sort of get back on it. And then I would like, oh, now I can launch myself safely and I know exactly where I'm going because I'm already on it. And it's already, the trajectory's already been decided, and I just rewinding back into the motion, which is sounds crazy, but it actually works.
Yes. I'm glad you kind of brought up the launching yourself up part because one of the joys of this game is it feels like the creators want you to break it a bit. Um, and most games, they're very much like, no, do not break our game. Do not cheat unless we give you cheat codes, which don't exist anymore. This game has its own like, yeah, we got cheat codes, but you gotta figure it out yourself, or you could just use YouTube. I mean, either one works. Moving on, so let's kind of get on to like the beginning story parts. We start with Zelda and Link going underneath the castle and exploring these lost ruins, and it's kind of atmospheric. You really feel like you found something you're not quite supposed to find. There's a huge mural on the wall that kind of explains what's going on, but you haven't figured it out yet. And you go a bit deeper and you see this weird mummified corpse of the thing surrounded by what looks like just pure magic. And it comes alive, and a lot of shenanigans happen. It kind of attacks you. It takes a lot of your health. It destroys the Master Sword, and Zelda gets lost in a cavern down in the depths, and you wake up somewhere totally different, not knowing where the princess is, not knowing exactly what happened to your sword, and now your arm is missing and replaced by this really different looking arm.
Yeah, it's an interesting opening because at the first glance, like at the very, very first glance, it's actually a little clunky because like you and Zelda are walking along and they sort of you can't really run because you have to go through the space at a certain pace, and she's got to say a bunch of stuff to you, and you're just like, okay, let's go. You know, especially if you've I don't know how many people actually replay this entire game, but if you know what the game's about and you're any at least at all impatient, you're kind of like, okay, let's go, let's go, princess, come on. But ultimately, yeah, it delivers a lot when you finally meet this sort of creature, because when you go down there, like you are decked out like it's the end of the game almost. Like you've got your master sword, you have a visible like giant health meter. I don't know how many hearts you have, but it's like it's a lot. It's got to be at least like 15 hearts. And then when you try and fight this creature, you literally lose all like he sucks the hearts right out of you, and this master sword gets broken, and yeah, you wake up and you've lost your arm, but you have a new arm, but it's definitely not your arm, and it's not like a prosthetic arm. It looks like someone else's arm, which is kind of a weird body horror thing that I don't think the game actually fully explores, but whatever. Whatever. The good news is your new arm has magic powers, and you're going to use these magic powers to do lots of fun stuff. And eventually, I'm sure you'll find your old arm. You'll figure it out. It's fine.
They basically pull a Metroid on you, where they go, yeah, all that fun stuff you have, well, it's no longer there. And you kind of wake up and you are greeted by the owner of the arm, Raru, which is looks really different in this game. He kind of looks like a humanoid rabbit, in my opinion. I'm not exactly sure what other animal to describe it, but he does have like kind of long ears. He's really tall. He has like somewhat of a human bunny face. And he's like, yeah, Zelda told me to help you out. I'm going to help you out. And you're like, great, where is she? Well, he doesn't tell you. And you walk out of this area you're in and you realize you're way up in the sky on these floating islands, which is pretty cool. But then you quickly realize if you have played Breath of the Wild, this is just the Great Plateau all over again. And this is where you really test things out and get used to the new mechanics bit by bit. And once when that is over, you're able to finally go on the ground. They give you the glider again, and you find out the princess is missing, but at the same time, Raru, who is this dead spirit, acts like it's not a big deal in a weird way. Yeah, it just leaves you with this giant mystery of like, okay, what is exactly going on?
Yeah, I think one of the great things about Breath of the Wild and in turn Tears of the Kingdom is how it sort of reimagines the creatures and peoples who live in Hyrule. Like in the classic games, they had a lot of other species, and most of them was like, okay, you've got some humanoids and you got some monsters, and a couple of them are in between, but they're not that big. Like the Gorons just look like really big fat guys, right? I mean, obviously they have different abilities, but they just look kind of like big fat guys, right? And the Zoras just look like they look kind of fishy, you know. And Breath of the Wild and Turn to the Kingdom, like, no, we're going for real variety here. You know, we're gonna make them. We've got different body types, we got different personalities. I don't remember. Didn't I think Breath of the Wild had like one ancient Hyrulean, and that's like the basis of Rauru and all the other stuff you meet later. I think like there was like one in like a cutscene maybe, and they sort of expanded that in this game with Rauru and all the other people you meet, and it's like okay, we've really got a sense of this is what Hyrule used to be, and here's Hyrule now, and we've got this. It's more than just creating a space. Like, oh, this is a space that exists. Like, this is now a place that exists and has existed for a long time. And Breath of the Wild definitely played with that a little bit because you woke up and it's been 100 years or whatever. And Tears of the Kingdom goes even bigger with that. Like, this place has been around for a long time, a really long time.
I actually don't remember an ancient Hyrulean in Breath of the Wild or anything that resembles the Zonai because I remember then I think there was some text about the Zonai.
Oh, maybe it was
And
text only. Yeah.
yeah, and there was this area called the Zonai Ruins, and that sparked a lot of Zelda theory videos. It took us a while to be like, okay, who are the Zonai? What's their deal? And even then, now that we got answers, they're still pretty an emblematic bunch because throughout the game, we're really introduced to two.
Hmm.
And Ganondorf lays down a line in one of the cutscenes, basically says, these are the only two that are left. It's kind of a shame your empire is no longer really here.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. It was only a name, the Zonai, and even that was a part of the DLC stuff. So it's very possible to miss the hints they put down in the first game. But clearly, whatever as soon as they thought of this idea, it's like they clearly like decided, okay, when we make a new game, let's explore this. Let's figure out who the Zonai are, and let's blow it up.
And man, I'm trying to not say so much spoilers stuff, but we'll get to the spoiler section in a minute. Um, are there any other main mechanics that kind of don't spoil the game that you really want to bring to light real quick?
Well, I just wanted to point out that you in giving you these new abilities, you lose some of the abilities you had in Breath of the Wild. Like you can no longer make infinite bombs, which is partially a bummer because I loved making infinite bombs. But what you get to do instead now is based on the new mechanic of putting things together, you can basically put whatever you want on whatever you want. So there are just, especially when you explore underground, you can stock up on these little like bomb flowers or whatever, and you can just collect like hundreds of these goddamn things. And then you can make bombs and use bombs as much as you want. And more importantly, you can put bombs on your arrows and just have bomb arrows, which is like that was an incredibly useful tool in Breath of the Wild, but you had to buy them, which means you had to find money and you had to find a shopkeeper and you had to hope the shopkeeper had more to sell you because I don't know about you, but whenever I went shopping for like special arrows, I was always beholden to like whether they were in stock. It was kind of like Nintendo simulating buying Nintendo games. It's like, oh no, we got a bomb arrow shortage. Sorry, kids. Like, no, I just want to buy. I just want to play the video game. You shouldn't be there shouldn't be shortages in your video game. It's make believe. And now it's like, no. If you get arrows, which are easy to get, you can just get the bombs, which are easy to find, and you can stock up and use them as much as you want. Or you can put special items that have special properties on your arrows and do that too. I think back to Breath of the Wild had those really expensive arrows that were meant for like killing guardians. And
Yeah.
now it's like, oh no, just find this, again, go out and either farm monsters or find these special things and you can build up as much crazy arrows as you want and just blow the game wide open. And that's like, did I miss the infinite bombs? Yes, but I loved what I got in exchange for them, which is like, okay, you can just make as much arrows as you want and like have crazy arrow effects, including God, what is it? I think don't you get like a bat eyeball or something that makes like homing arrows? Like that was crazy.
Yeah, I believe it was adding a key swing or a key eye that could zero in on targets. And I actually did not know that one until I saw it online because it didn't really occur to me on my first playthrough to like add uh, the body parts to an arrow. I thought it would do nothing. I thought it would actually probably like make it do less damage actually. Because like if you add goblin guts to your arrow tip, you're like, well, that's not going to pierce anything. So what's the point? Getting back on track. Once when you get onto the ground, you're not far from like this camp HQ where a lot of like people from the calamity are trying to figure things out. It's almost like an army base in a weird way without the army. You know, I'm not exactly sure how to fully describe it. Uh, More like, oh, what's those type of camps? Not the bad camp.
I mean, what you mean, like a refugee camp?
Yeah, refugee camp.
That's not a great camp, but I
Well,
mean,
yeah, it's not a good. I was thinking like internment camp
oh
or
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. Okay, yeah.
yeah,
It's places. It's a place of safety for people who are taking temporary shelter from a disaster, which is good for them because they're not dead, but it's not good like a house.
yeah,
It's like some bunk beds in a stone structure underground where it's like, oh, at least I can go to sleep here and I feel safe. But still, when you go out of the bunker, you're like, oh man, this place is a mess. What the hell?
yeah. And I feel like they kind of missed out on a weird opportunity because when I first saw this thing, I would have figured they would add some type of element where you could spruce up your camp and kind of make it your own. And I wonder if that ever really was in the playbook. Something about it kind of screams at me that it was, but they just never quite got to it.
Yeah,
And
I
I,
wonder because Breath of the Wild, again, I mentioned it before. You can embark on this weird side quest and you basically get a house out of it, and then you have this house you can put stuff in and sort of display stuff. And it's not a big deal, but like it's a house. It's kind of a thing that it wasn't yours, and now it is. And you don't really get that here. You just sort of get places where you hang out on the regular. Like you can go in the bunker and just like take a nap in the bunker whenever you want to. You can still do the fire thing outside and basically can't build a campfire and sleep out wherever you want. But yeah, there really isn't any base building mechanic in this game. But I guess because of your abilities let you build stuff wherever, I guess like they figured, well, you're already building so much. We don't need to make you build it in one place. Just you want to build a base? Okay, you can build a base that's also a giant robot. Go ahead. Go nuts.
yeah, I honestly would have guessed there would be points where you would have built and kind of add defense to your base and to like ward off hordes that would be coming in. I thought that would be kind of cool, but again, they never messed with it. And going into the base, you first meet Pura, which had literally got the glow up of a century. They literally said, it's kind of creepy the fact in the last game she was this forever child. What if we turned her into a full on woman and so much more? And the internet just ran with it and went crazy. And then you got Robbie, an older scientist guy. I love his goggles. He has a really fun design. Actually, a lot of these side characters have a fun design. Uh, and they both have like share this little assistant who's just eager to go into what's called the depths. And after talking to them, you realize, yeah, there's these things called the depths. You need to go check them out. And there's also the map mechanic of the game where you get literally launched into the sky by this giant cannon looking thing, which is basically the towers from the last game. But I thought this was a bit more interesting because it's sky relevant. And in this, every time you go to a tower, it unlocks the map around that area. Uh, but it also shoots you up thousands of feet in the air and you got to glide down. And I thought this would actually break the game, but it surprisingly didn't.
Yeah, it's the towers are still the towers. Indeed, they look like they've been sort of repurposed from the previous game. Like they're sort of like half people like have built stuff around them. Whereas like in the first game, you had to like unearth them, and you were like awakening them after some long slumber. And now it's like, oh yeah, these towers, they're still here, and we're futzed with them, and we're trying to make them into things that we can use. So now the challenge becomes, it's not about climbing a tower, because like, yeah, again, climbing is not the main goal here. It's always about like usually like solving some kind of puzzle, or getting inside the tower and then like unlocking the cannon, and then triggering the cannon, and then launching yourself in the air. Because yeah, when you've got a game where you have locations in the sky, and just like the last game, you can warp to any shrine. So it's like, if you want to go to the sky, you can just go to the sky. It's not a big deal. And then you can drop down from the sky onto the earth wherever you want. So they had to make a new challenge where it's like, it's not about climbing, it's about solving puzzles and figuring out new ways to access new areas, and creating shortcuts, and yeah, unlocking the map that shows you where everything is. And now, but now you have like triple maps essentially.
Find out, okay, this is how I unlock the towers. Then you go into the depths, and I really want to talk more about the depths in the spoiler section, because I
Okay.
feel like they are definitely something you need to see and believe. And I really wouldn't say they're a major spoiler just mentioning them off the bat, though, because they are shown very early on into the game, like, hey, we need to go there, go check this out. So after all that, you begin to unravel the mystery of like what happened to Princess Zelda, and that seems to be the big theme of the game. It literally goes back to the basics of find the princess. And there's kind of a lot of fun shenanigans that goes on with it, because apparently you kind of see her later on, but something is a little amiss about that, and you're not sure exactly what's going on.
It's very different than Breath of the Wild, which, you spend all this time on the plateau, you meet the Ghost King, and he's like, hey, look over there. That's where the bad guy is. That's where Zelda is. Get to it. I'm dead. Bye. And now it's a lot more open ended. It's like, okay, we know, like, we have some friends, we have some allies, we have some idea what's going on, but we don't really know what happened to Zelda. We don't really know, like, we know there's a bad guy, but we don't have like a spot like, oh, this is where the bad guy is. We got to get there. We only have hints, and it's really like, okay, we got to explore around this world and meet the peoples of this world and figure out what's happening, and through that, we will uncover the story. So it's almost like expanding on the memory aspect of Breath of the Wild, but instead of just being like random stuff, the memories actually tell a story. Although they do tell a story in a weird order, so you might not get it in the right order, but eventually you'll put it together. Like, oh, okay, here's what happened, and here's what I have to do, and here's where the final boss is, and I'll get him. I got him. I'll get him.
Yeah. This one, you definitely got to kind of figure out it. They make it a bit more intimidating into just going to where the final boss is, because the castle's actually in the sky, and you're like, well, do I go in the castle or do I go underneath it? Uh, and that gets a little bit answered later on if you actually go out and explore the world. They really, really encourage that this time around. But first, we've been talking about Breath of the Wild this entire time as well, and it really can't be talked about in an in-depth review without talking about Breath of the Wild. But it kind of begs the question: do you think you need to play Breath of the Wild first?
I would say no, just because this game contains so much of what made Breath of the Wild great. And again, as we've already said, it expands upon and builds upon and kind of improves Breath of the Wild in that. So it's like, if you don't play Breath of the Wild, you'll have to play catch up a little bit as far as like learning the layout of the land. But like, so many mechanics have changed, so many characters, there's so many new characters you meet in this game. Like, okay, you won't go into this game understanding that there's a hot shark man that Link probably fooled around with. But it's like, you'll meet those people, and you meet like you'll meet a bunch of fish people. It's like, okay, here are the fish people. And then eventually you go online, you realize, oh, there was a whole thing with a fish man. Okay, well, that's great. Um Because you meet a different there's a different prince in this game, right? The one who hangs out with you in this game versus the last game. It's a different. I'm losing track of my fisherman here.
Oh, you mean the Zora Prince?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember it was like his sister that really kind of took his spot, but you do see that prince again. I'm pretty damn sure.
What I'm saying is like in Breath of the Wild, you hang out with like you meet up with these leaders of the community, each
Yeah,
community, and they help you to do stuff. And in this game, you do the same thing again, but usually it's new characters, or is that the one case where it's the same guy again? I can't remember if it's the same guy or if it's a different fish guy this time around. Because like the bird people, like you meet at a kid bird person, and you definitely are meeting with you hang out with a different Gerudo and a different uh
Zora and
the
no,
key people Gorons. Like you definitely hang out,
Gorons.
like it's a different Gor. Like those are different people, and I forgot whether it's the same fish person or a new fish person this time around. But either way,
I
they have the same basic look to them. So like I'm not crazy in forgetting proper nouns. This game, that's the thing. I think that's the thing. Playing Breath of the Wild will help you keep track of all the proper nouns. But if you just play Tears of the Kingdom first, you'll just have to like maybe take some notes or have a wiki open. It's like, oh, who's this guy again? Okay, I'm up to speed here. Thank you. It's a lot of proper nouns.
I would also agree that you don't need to play Breath of the Wild, or at the very least, maybe look up a. I'm sure there has to be a YouTube video on like the plot and the minor things you should know about Breath of the Wild before Tears of the Kingdom. However, I'd say most video games in general are really good about like of course you don't need to play the previous game. And I think that's kind of the nature of a lot of video games in general because they don't want to hold off this entire bar on like yes, they do want you to pay for two games, but realistically they're going I think we would make way much less sell money if we did put that giant bar on everything that says yes play this along with all the games that came beforehand and people don't have that time on their hands like they used to. Before we get onto the spoiler section, what do you think who do you think this game is for and like how fun is this game on a review scale?
Oh, geez. I mean, you have to have. I would say you have to have some experience with 3D action games for sure, because this is a game that's got a lot of complex like button combination. Like you got to use all the buttons and levers on the Switch to make this game work. And if you're not already familiar with those kinds of control schemes, it's not going to make any sense. Like some people talk about Portal as a good entry game to video games. I don't know if that's true because you still got to understand how to walk and look and that stuff. But like Tears of the Kingdom, if you it's like your first video game, it's not going to work. It's gonna be too much. But having said that, I feel like it is a good game because it's so huge and it introduces so many mechanics that are new to this game. It's very inviting that you don't really need to know who any of these people are. Like I said, there's a ton of proper nouns, and there's a geography and cultures that already exist here. But this game will like it'll let you catch up really fast, and you can just hang out in it. It's a very it's a hangout game. It's the definition of a hangout game. It's got I think I put 300 hours in this game. Like it was huge, and just you put as much time in it as you want to. You can explore every corner of all three maps if you really want to, but you don't have to do everything. There are creatures roaming the overworld and the underworld that you don't even have to fight. You can fight them and you'll get stuff for that, but if you don't kill every last monster, it's fine. You're fine. It's okay.
I would say this game is mostly for people who love a sense of adventure, and that kind of shines through in pretty much most Zelda games. Uh, but I would also caveat that with like, if you ever really loved Legos as a kid, this is the game for you. Like, if you love adventure and the building aspect on Legos, not the I got the like Millennium Falcon said, and that's what I'm building. Like, nah, if you're more like, I want to create on my own, this is more of the game for you.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that this game has a lot of, exploring the depths and digging for stuff, because Minecraft is just as popular in Japan as it is in the rest of the world. So I feel like, the people at Nintendo, they know people love Minecraft. They know the children yearn for the mines, as the meme says. So it's like, why not have a Zelda game where you get to explore heights and the depths and you dig up minerals, and then there's a whole mechanic where you put things together and build new things. Why not?
The magic restraining the Demon King will eventually be undone. When that happens, a noble swordsman named Link will oppose him. We must help. Lend him your power. He will need the Zora's control over water.
All right, and moving on to the spoiler section. From here on out, I know we've already accidentally spoiled a couple of things, but we're going hold hands out, no bar. Uh, you have been warned. If you have not played this game, I think me and Diamond would both agree. Go ahead and try this game. Uh, I personally loved it. I think it's one of the best things Nintendo's ever built. Zelda is one of my actual personal favorite series of all time, and this is probably my third favorite Zelda game.
I'm of the opinion that this game is so experiential and experimental that even if you listen to this entire podcast before you play the game and you find out what happened to Zelda and how you get her back, like, I don't think that would take away from the experience of actually playing the game. But yeah, if you're a person who wants to discover it on your own as you play the game, by all means play it first before proceeding with the podcast. But I personally feel like anything we've said on the show will not take away from what it means to actually put your hands on the controller and do all this stuff and do what you want to do, Because like I said, there's a lot of stuff in this game you don't even have to do. It's fine. You don't have to do it. You can do it if you want to do it. And that includes, uncovering all these story things. So you don't have to do all the story stuff if you don't want to. Like, you definitely have to find Zelda eventually. That's kind of important, but you don't need to find, I think, all those little like teardrop things. I don't think so. I think most of them are optional. 80% sure they're optional.
Well, they definitely feel optional in the way that there's no clear cut path unless you go online or go to this one part in the map that's still kind of vague and you got to stumble across it yourself onto like which order you should watch these if you're really interested in the backstory. And I actually do think it's an interesting backstory. It could be better. There are definitely problems I have with it, but I would say my biggest gripe is like you could watch these in a totally strange order, and that will make you kind of confused as to what's going on. Uh, and then at the end, they try to tie it all together and paint a big picture on like what happened to Zelda, as well as like what's going on with the Master Sword. But we'll talk about that in a minute. First, I kind of want to talk about uh, since we were fans and still are of Breath of the Wild, we definitely have gripes, and I'd say one of mine goes with the internet big gripes of the dungeons were really boring in Breath of the Wild.
Oh
and,
yeah.
and I think everyone was taken back behind that because one of the things that made a Zelda game were really thematic dungeons, as well as just usually being really good.
Yeah, they
So
had. I'll give them credit. They had a cool idea where it's like, okay, instead of dungeons per se, we have these four giant creatures essentially, and then you have to figure out how to get inside them, and then you explore them like they're a dungeon. But the problem is, while the creatures themselves had different sort of designs, like one looked like a bird, and one looked like a chameleon or whatever, or an elephant. Like they had different designs, but once you were inside them, you were still kind of just doing the same stuff, and it was very rote. And then each one had a boss, and again, the bosses were all sort of on a theme, but they looked more similar than dissimilar. And I very much appreciate that Tears of the Kingdom said, no, 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 we're going to give you temples to explore, and the temples are kind of like Ocarina of Time again, where it's like the temples can be whatever we want them to be, and when you fight a boss, the boss can be whatever we want them to be, and they're indeed very different compared to one another. And also, oh, by the way, fun fact: once you beat a boss, you can find the boss again in the underworld and fight it again and get more monster parts if you want to do that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed all those aspects, but I would still say there are parts of the dungeons I found a little bit frustrating. Like I really enjoyed the fire temple, but I did get a little tired of the railway system
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
at a certain point. And yeah, there was one point where I really got tired of it, and I kind of said screw it, and I cheesed my way through the dungeon by kind of climbing all over the damn place. Uh, but I definitely see there was a huge attempt there, and a lot of the attempts were really good. I think to me the most memorable attempt is the uh, dungeon in the desert that felt
Yeah.
very it felt very Indiana Jones to me, which I always thought was like a secret mechanic in like the 3D Zeldas, especially. The 3D Zeldas are secretly Tomb Raider games. No one's just really kind of caught on to it yet. um, but the desert dungeon, you are literally going through a place where like the floor will has booby traps everywhere, will fall out from you. And then it gets to the open world part, the openness part, I should say, where you're climbing everywhere and using mirrors to like use connect light everywhere. Um, Diamond, do you have any favorite or infamous dungeons in this game?
Well, I just if we're talking about the desert, the lightning temple, I got to shout out the Gibdos. Like
Yes.
Gibdos have always been Gibdos are go all the way back to the very first game, but in almost all the scenarios, the Gibdo is basically a mummy. Like it's almost like a universal monster like mummy. It's covered in bandages, it shuffles around. Usually you want to light it on fire, but like it's very basic. And they really went all out like no, 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 we're going to make the Gibdos into something a lot freakier. And again, kind of body horror-ish in that they're humanoid, like they have like exposed bones, and they're very creepy looking. They're almost more zombie than mummy now, but some of them have wings. And then at the end of the dungeon, you fight the Queen Gibdo, which is like a huge freaky ass like I don't know what that is. Is that a moth? Is it some sort of hybrid? Is it like a brundlefly? I don't know what the hell it is, but it looks gross. And I really appreciate having this entire dungeon that feels a little bit dangerous, and these creatures that have been been part of the series for a long time are newly freaky. They're not quite as freaky as the Redeads, like the terrifying Redeads from Ocarina of Time, but they're uncomfortable to look at, and they made me tense. Like when Gibdos appeared, I'm like, oh shit, Gibdos, oh man. And then of course the big boss battle is all about like dealing with a giant creature, but of course she summons the Gibdo, like I don't know what they are. The Gibdo mushrooms, the Gibdo hives that create more Gibdos, and you got to destroy those. And that whole sequence was a lot for me, and I really enjoyed it. Beyond that, I mean, a lot. It's funny how many of because the game has a lot of aerial aspects. It's funny how much of the bosses involved kind of like flying around. Like the entire uh, Temple of Wind stuff, like that's all airborne. But even the Fire Temple, you've got a whole sequence, or to get into Death Mountain, you have like you're flying with the Goron and you're shooting the Goron through the air at the dragon in the volcano. Like there's a lot of flying in this game in general, so they kind of try to figure out ways. Oh, how can we make shooting like aerial combat exciting? And indeed, it comes to a head at the very end of the game where you have an entire air battle, which is a little frustrating because you have to like dive through the air and hit something in the air, and if you miss it, you got to like go through all the steps again to get back into the air. But all in all, I feel like they really went out and tried to do a lot more variety. Which again, compared to Breath of the Wild, like we talked about how samey some of that stuff felt. Tears of the Kingdom really went, no, we're gonna experiment, we're gonna do new stuff. Hell, there's one boss battle where it's like it's just a little guy. It's just a little guy. Go kill the little guy. You almost feel bad, except you hate him. So it's great when you kill the
Are
little
you
guy.
talking about the shark?
The guy who make the little guy who makes the Moktarok or Muktarok.
Yeah, Muktarok.
Yeah,
I hated that thing actually.
but I'm just saying it's just like of most of the bosses in this game are massive creatures that you fight by finding a weak point or whatever, and that's just a little squirmy little guy who spits at you and makes you angry. It's a fun it's like imagine a Castlevania game that had you like fight a flea man as a boss. You know what I mean? It'd be funny. You'd still hate it, but it'd be funny.
I did hate it. It was the Frankenstein and Igor boss of the original Castlevania game.
Okay, that's true.
Other than just the dungeons, trying to get my brain back on track. You also got the sky, which surprisingly doesn't have a whole lot to it. I feel like it was one of the areas kind of lacking in the game. They did move the famous labyrinths up to the sky, and they kind of mirrored those on the ground. But other than that, there's the main area that you kind of start off with, and then there are just these tiny little islands in the sky. And most of the time, like if they're not doing anything, they have construct bosses on them, or they supply you with the Zonai items that you can use to build with on your own. Um, uh, what did you think of anything in the sky that really stuck out to you?
Well, we're kind of joking around a little bit, but yeah, obviously the sky is gonna be lacking in ground because it's the sky.
It's
But
yeah,
it was cool that the sky areas are basically a challenge of like, okay, figure out where to launch yourself into the air, and also figure out how to propel yourself across long distances of nothingness. You know, it's like it's almost like
Wind
imagine if you
Waker, but using actual wind.
yeah, I'm almost thinking like they're almost like the little checkpoints. Like you launch yourself into the sky somewhere and you get to point A, and you see something in the distance. Okay, I got to find a way to point B, and then at point B I can refresh my stamina and summon a new construct or whatever, and then launch myself towards points. Like it's all these sort of little like almost checkpoints, except they're not really checkpoints. They're just like way little tiny islands that you're sort of hopping between to get to somewhere new. And some of these islands have bosses, and some of the islands are, you have the labyrinth stuff. Some of them just have items for you to collect. I think there's a couple shrines in the sky. There's not that many shrines in the sky because again, it's the sky. But it's a it was a very interesting thing. It was a little more frustrating as far as because it's all airborne, and if you make a mistake, or if you sail, for 5 minutes through the sky and you miss the landing, then you have to go back and do it all over again, which is really irritating. Whereas, the underground is dangerous and it's spooky, but in general, you have land you can cross. So I didn't have to do as many restarts, There are definitely some areas in the underground where it's like, oh no, you missed a jump and you fell, and now you're in this, this entire like puddle of gloom, and it sucks now. Like, okay, well, I'm just gonna warp out and try this again. But the sky is very much like, oh, if you make one mistake in hopping between islands, you're not going to get to the next island. You have to go back and start this chain over again, which is a little irritating. But I get it.
Yes.
I get it. When it works, it's really exciting.
Yeah, I think the other thing that stuck out with me were like the storm clouds in the sky that were clearly hiding something.
Mm.
And I believe there was one part where you could find lightning armor in I think that's where you get all the lightning armor. But remember coming across a few shrines up in there, and like, oh man, it kind of reminded me of like the starships in Mario 3 for some reason. But it's just like, what if that, but Zelda themed, and you're going across these islands in this semi-platforming challenge to get this treasure that will help you be resistant to lightning, which is actually really, really good for later on optional bosses. I take that back. The Queen Gibdo, she used a lot of lightning, I believe, and shocked the hell out of you. But coming across those seemed like kind of a special treat. And then after I got done with that, I got my ass kicked by a third level construct. Again, I think it actually knocked me off the damn sky the
Yeah,
first time around.
that's definitely a problem with having boss encounters in the sky. Is that if you get hit in the wrong place, well, you are starting that boss fight over. Sorry.
And that kind of seems to be a tradition in a lot of Zelda games. Like in Link to the Past, you had that weird like caterpillar boss that would knock you down to the next level in the tower.
Yeah, that's an infuriating one. But even the final boss, there are those pits. There's like pits at the edge of the platform, and if you fall down, you just got to fight Ganon all over again, which is annoying. Although, at least in that case, when you fall down, you can easily refresh your health and go right back up and fight him again. Whereas that stupid worm boss, you have to like go up multiple floors, and you're inside a dungeon, so your health refreshes are limited. So like that, and also of course the fact that Worm Boss is mostly invisible except for the tiny little part at the back of it, like that entire thing is really frustrating, actually. But
Yeah, you would hit it and on the head, and you would bounce off just a tiny bit. And if it hit you, you would really get like kind of pushed around easily.
but
Uh,
one thing I wanted to bring up is that it's interesting again because Tears of the Kingdom has a much more vertical map in general, and you're always going up and down and back and forth. The dragons this time around are far less intimidating. Like it's not about, oh, we have to find the drag we have to find a special place to meet the dragon at a certain time and jump on it from like a high mountain. Like you can always warp to the sky and you can always catch up with the dragon in a certain spot. Or if you're really smart, if you figure out when the dragon comes out or into the ground, you can also use that to get on the dragon. Like the dragons are still there and they're still a part of the game, but it's interesting how they're less unapproachable because of the way the game works now, but it's still a part of the game and you still have to figure it out. And that again leads to one special dragon that you actually do have to you definitely want to track down.
Back on the ground, other than the underground itself, you got a bunch more cave systems as well as wells, and these are really interesting because they seem really samey, and they kind of are, but they really spark that myth, or not even myth. He's gone on record many times saying it, of Miyamoto actually exploring cave systems as a cave, and that's how we got Zelda to begin with. Do question if he ever actually went inside a well, though. Wonder if he ever did that. Probably not. But I thought these were really cool at first, and then they got boring about the 20th time you entered one, because there's not a whole lot. It's just literally underground. There's not a whole lot of theming to these things. You did get a NPC that will give you like 10 rubies for each well you find, and I thought that was pretty neat. But there's kind of a side goal on every time you find a cave or a well. You want to find the giant glowing frog and get its special bubble item for which is its own kind of collectible currency.
Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah, those. I think I had to look up a bunch of those because some of them were really hard to find.
Yeah, you would think it would be easy to find a giant glowing frog on the ceiling, but apparently some of those are really tricky to find. Um, Again, I thought it was really cool at first, but then I think it played its hand a little too much on those. They could have easily cut off half of those in the game, and I'd be totally fine with it. Um, but then we get to the very interesting area, the chasms, the underground, and man, I just thought this thing was so cool
Yeah.
when I first encountered it. You literally plunge so far into the ground that you get a little kind of scared because you're like, I'm not seeing the ground anywhere near me. And then once when like the walls of the hole disappear, it is just dark the first time around. And I think on my replay, I accidentally hit the ground, and luckily I had a fairy. Otherwise, I'd be a Link pancake at that point, just splat on the ground. But it's super dark, and they give you a really cool mechanic on like these type of seeds that you find in certain flowers, and when you throw them, they'll light up and illuminate the area. And what you're trying to do is find these weird type of shrines that will illuminate an entire area. And when you kind of do that, you realize like, oh wow, looking around, this place is kind of freaky looking. And if you ever watched Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind, uh, one of the best Ghibli movies, you can tell immediately, like, oh, they took inspiration from that movie, because that is what a lot of the underground looks like to me, at least.
Yeah, I spent a huge amount of time exploring the depths, and I really enjoyed what they did with that because really, the temples are the traditional dungeons that it's a closed area. You have to go in there and fight a boss, and you get something for it. But really, the true dungeon of this game is the entire underworld that you explore at your peril. But there's plenty of stuff down there that you want to get, and you're constantly sort of in a seesaw battle of how do I explore further underground while also managing like how I can see, because like if something is not lit up, you literally can't see where you're going. So yeah, you have the seed mechanic, and of course, you can put a seed on the ground and it lights up and you get a small circle of light, but you can also put a seed on your arrows and you can shoot and find, oh, there's a wall over here. Here's a chasm. How deep is this chasm? I'll shoot an arrow in there and I'll take a look and see whether my arrow disappears into nothingness or if it hits the ground. Like, oh, okay, I can go down there. And then each of these sort of waypoints light up part of the underground. And eventually, if you find every single one, you've essentially lit up, I think, the entire space, or at least 90% of it.
Yeah, there are giant chasms that are physically put up by a wall, and you can kind of tell, oh, that's probably a mountain above ground or whatever. But they make it quite clear you're not supposed to like be around that area. You're not supposed to go through it or anything. But for the most part, it is almost the entire size of going up on the main level, and it's kind of shocking on how huge this is. And one of the neat things about finding the underground shrines, once when you get to them, it's not like a shrine above ground where you gotta solve a puzzle. The puzzle is just getting to it.
Yeah.
And what you do notice, though, hey, wait a minute, the shrines on the underground match the exact locations on the map of shrines above ground.
Yeah,
And
that's definitely how I started exploring the like. I would look for shrines in the overworld, and whenever I found one, I would try to explore that same location in the underground, and vice versa. If I found, I think they're called light roots, right? Officially, the light roots underground.
yeah,
Yeah, if I found one of those and I didn't know there was a shrine up top near it, I was like, okay, well, these usually are connected, and I would search that area on, so as you explore each map, it gives you hints as to where you might want to explore the other maps. Even in the sky, I think there might be some connection between sky and underground a couple times, maybe.
I think it's actually every single shrine. Don't quote me on that, but
I know the
if
names are reversed. Like whatever the name of a
yeah,
shrine is, it's spelled backwards for the light route,
yeah,
which is kind of funny just because they because there are so many shrines and light routes, these names are almost pure gibberish. Like I remember a few years ago, I did a trivia contest, and one of the questions was like, "Okay, everyone played Breath of the Wild, right? Name a shrine. Name any shrine." And most people could not do it because it's all gibberish.
yeah. Uh, but there's more than just like weird gloominess and like strange scenery. There's a couple of big missions in there. Like for one, you get a refined Master Koga, which you thought fell to his death in the first game, and he's much more interesting in this game. He uses Zonai technology himself, and he kind of makes these like almost mech things to as boss battles, and I thought that was one of the coolest bosses in the game. Is oh, it's Master Koga again. I wonder what he'll whip up this time for me to fight.
Yeah, the Koga clan in general is much better handled this time around in that you're always meeting, surprise assassins throughout the world. And because one of the things that I really hated about Breath of the Wild was the whole Koga lair, where it's like you have to do this stealthily. Like if you don't do this stealthily, these guys have an incredible amount of health. But if you stick up on them, you kill them in one hit. So it's like you have to do stealth. No, shut up. You have to do the stealth. And this time around, like the Koga have these little bases or whatever, but you can approach them however you want to approach them. You can fight them with mechs, or you can sneak them off one at a time. And it was much more open ended and a lot more creative. But because it was underground, it was also a lot more intimidating, And yeah, eventually you fight him, and he's still kind of goofy, but yes, now he has the power to build stuff. So you can like either outbuild him or get really good at shooting him in the head so he falls down. Um, I'm pretty sure he still does this thing where he tries to throw that ball at you, and you can again use your powers to throw the ball back at him, and just like, well, screw you.
Yeah, and near the end of his quest, you kind of find one of the lost mechanics that we kind of hinted at earlier with the side quest. There's Raru's sister involved, and she kind of has her own secret shrine, and it ends in this interesting mech battle in a steel cage, no less. And you could tell the developers were just having all sorts of fun with this battle, where you kind of build your own mech, and or it's actually a pre-built mech versus his, and it's like playing, oh, what was that show, Robot Wars, but
Yeah,
as a boss fight.
it's cool, but also it's a little restrictive in the way that I just complained about the stealth stuff in Breath of the Wild. And like you have to enter the cage, you have to ride the robot. The main difference is that yeah, because you're on the robot, you can do the thing where you jump off the robot and get in slow motion. And that's one trick you can do is like you can jump off the robot and shoot some arrows and then like, but you have to get back in the robot right away because the arena itself is not safe.
Yeah,
So even though it's a boss and I kind of wanted to just fight the boss my way, it's like no, you have to fight the boss using the robot because otherwise the arena will just kill you, which is a little annoying. But the boss fight itself was, there was a lot of room for experimentation, and the fact that you had to basically use the cage walls essentially as part of the fight.
yeah, you gotta push the mech into the walls. I remember using its own rockets against him at some point. I actually really enjoyed that boss fight quite a bit, but I also found it kind of tough, kind of one of the more tougher ones because I remember getting near the end and just like losing again and again. But one of the things it unlocks is you can now save blueprints of your own creations. And this is one of the things that really broke the game because everyone, including myself, would make the hover bike. Um, did you ever do the hover bike trick?
I tried a couple times. I don't know. I remember watching YouTube videos saying, "Oh, build this one thing and it changes the game forever." And either I couldn't build it right or I just maybe I just didn't figure out the usage right. Like, it didn't break the game for me, but I definitely definitely the whole building mechanic, one of the fun parts of the building mechanic was looking up stuff online and figuring out, "Oh, here's a weird thing you can build and it helps you get certain things." So I
Yes.
definitely enjoyed that kind of experimentation, but I never quite got the hover bike working in the same way that I say like the glide. I was much more successful building different gliders and putting fans on gliders and that kind of stuff. And then of course the the kind of like mech spirit that you can just ride. That was fun in some aspects where you're basically like you have your own little personal mech and you can drive it around the regular world, which is funny. But yeah, I don't know. Somehow I never got the hover bike in the same way that the internet promised it would help me. I don't know.
Uh, I do remember you had to be really precise with the angling of the two fans on
Hmm.
that. And that
Maybe that was
might
it.
have, yeah, that might have been the hindrance. As for the mech, I totally loved it myself, with the exception of this escort mission you do in the depths that I
Yeah.
actually totally hated. Uh, Probably one of the worst escort missions I've actually ever played in a long time.
Yeah,
Um,
escort missions are really hard to make decent and, you know. But I remember I had a conversation with illustrator Maddie Kopp at Tokyo Game Show a couple years ago. I think it was I don't know if it was before or after Tears of the Kingdom came out, but when we were talking about games that we love, we kind of both agreed that every video game, even if you love the video game, every video game is going to have some parts that just absolutely suck.
oh
And
yeah,
I don't know why, but like every video game seems to like include one aspect or mechanic or level or quest that just completely sucks ass and you hate it. And one of the revelations I think I had when playing Tears of the Kingdom is like, oh boy, this took out a lot of the ass parts of Breath of the Wild. And it's not like Tears of the Kingdom is assless. There are definitely parts of the game that suck, but there's so much that it gets right, and I had so much fun playing around and experimenting and finding out what worked that it blew away any shortcomings that I had with little things like, yeah, the dumbass escort mission or getting frustrated with, exploring the sky because I kept falling. Like the parts that I didn't like just faded in comparison to all the stuff that it got perfect, you know?
yeah. Like we were talking about boss fights earlier, and how much I hate the Muktarok. One of the things I absolutely hate about it, it would fling out sludge everywhere, and you would get so slow. And the real secret is to use water to wash away the sludge, but he would replace it so quickly, and he was so fast that the chances to hit him were so narrow that I found him easily the most frustrating boss in the entire game, with the weirdest dungeon ever, because it's very low gravity, which is out of nowhere. It feels like a dungeon that wasn't fully finished, in my opinion. And I think that's one of my biggest gripes about certain games. I remember, like in Banjo Tooie, there's an entire level at the end. It feels like, well, these are just prototypes of areas you guys didn't finish, so you just hodgepodged it all into one giant area. I would say that's one of my bigger gripes about this game. However, like what you said earlier, yeah, we have gripes with this game. It's still an amazing game. It's one that you can easily get lost into, and we haven't even said like some of the best parts, like the Triok, or not. That's not the right word. the fucking three-headed dragon.
Gleok.
Gleok. Yeah.
Gleok, yes.
Yes. These things are a treat because you would see one in the wild, and if you didn't know about them in the game beforehand, uh, I think they're really cool to come across. Because one of the cool things about Zelda games, it is a Renaissance fantasy game, and surprisingly, there's not too many dragon fights in Zelda. Like you do have the Gleoks in the very first game, which where these come from, but like Volvagia, I loved in Ocarina of Time, but it was still a very of the time boss fight where uh, you wait a certain time to hit it with the hammer and then swipe it with your sword. This is an open world game, so you have so many options on fighting the Gleoks, and they all come in like three different flavors: fire, ice, and lightning. And those all bring its entire challenges to itself. Like, what did you think of the Gleoks in this game?
I think I only fought one of them once, and I felt like that was enough. Just because they're so big, and of course they can fly. So it's like you have to do all the tricks. To, you really need to like hit them in the head to stun them, and if they have three heads, so you got to stun them, and then you hit their body, and then as you fight them, eventually they start flying around. And I just like compared to say like the giants, where like I can deal with a giant. The giants aren't that intimidating. The dragons to me were
Too much for you?
just the amount of effort and difficulty it was to kill them to me outweighed the prizes. You know,
Okay.
in a way, it was almost like Lionel's. Like I had the same problem with Lionel's, like because Lionel's are just these fucking tanks. Excuse me, I don't want to be about curses, but yeah,
Oh, I don't care on this show.
okay. But yeah,
I make sure
Gleoks.
the like, yeah, XSplit material on every
Okay,
episode. So
yeah, Gleeloks. I when I wanted to fight a boss and stock up on parts, I generally fought the constructs. I felt like the constructs were the right level of challenge for me personally. The Gleelock is the Gleeok or Gleelock. I can't figure out how many L's are in that word, but whatever. Um, I only fought them a couple times, and then I was like, you know what? I don't need those. I don't need those monster parts that badly. I'm fine.
were there any mini bosses that you really did enjoy other than the giant uh types?
Hmm.
I did like the frog locks. They're in the Underdark or the chasms. Um, they're giant bullfrogs that will swallow you whole, and you need to like do them dirty like Dodongos and just fire bombs into them when they open up. And I thought they were really fun.
I was a little interested in how they reimagine likes. How sort of you have to sort of like stun them or wait. Like you have to use an
Wait
arrow
till
to
they
stun
open
them.
up.
Yeah, like you stun them with an arrow and then you can go to town on them. I thought that was kind of interesting way to reimagine likes as opposed to these slimy things that steal your shield. Like they're pretty much stationary as I recall. Like it's like you see them and like they can surprise you. Like if you're in a cave, they can surprise like, oh shit, there's a like. But beyond that, once you see them, it's like, oh, do I want to engage with that thing? Because like in the old games, like they swallow stuff. So if you kill them, you might get some stuff out of their guts.
I actually really enjoyed the likes as well. I enjoyed them for their animations because they had that very unique bug slug quality to them. Uh, they seem really otherworldly, and they kind of remind me of the giant bugs in like Peter Jackson's Kong remake. But you do need to wait till like they open up and they give you that split second to hit it with an arrow or something to stun it, but they can recover kind of quickly, and before you know it, you're being eaten by that sucker if you're not careful. And it's kind of gruesome. Like you kind of hear it chewing and slurping you around, and you're just like, oh, geez. Uh, I would really hate to be Link in that scenario. Um,
Yeah, but
uh,
I guess if we're talking about freaky things, I guess we got to talk about the Gloom Hands because
oh
Jesus Christ,
yeah, the, oh
nothing scarier. I think there's nothing scarier in the game than going somewhere and you're like, oh, I see a treasure chest, I see a curiosity I'd like to explore further, and then you suddenly realize, oh shit, there's a Gloom Hand here. Run.
so that kind of brings me to a question: do you hate Gloom Hands more than the Guardians from Breath of the Wild? Because that really seems to be like, okay, we took out the Guardians, we got this new thing for you to try out.
I mean, the Guardians were frustrating for me because again, it's like you had to do something very specific, and if you didn't do it right, and if you weren't good at the parry mechanic, they could really screw you up. As whereas the Gloom Hands were more like, here's a very strong enemy. If you want to fight it, you can fight it. You probably need a lot of bombs, but it's like there are ways around it, and there are strategies there were winning strategies you could use. And again, if you fought them and killed them, you got some good stuff for them. As I recall, like you could get like a good sword or whatever. But just
Yeah,
from a general like oh shit moment, like I like that oh shit moment more than oh boy there's guardians out here, because sometimes the game would throw like multiple guardians at you in Breath of the Wild. You're like I'm like, I just don't want to be here. I don't want to be here at all. I'm sorry, I'm leaving.
yeah. In Breath of the Wild, you would see this red dot on you, and you would hear the piano, and you'd just be like, ah, god damn it again.
Yeah, because
Whereas this one,
I'm terrible at like any kind of parry mechanic. I'm sorry. Like I'm decent at like in these sort of Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Like I'm okay at dodging. Like the whole like, oh, if you dodge the right time, you get the flurry rush. Like I can do that sometimes, but the hold up your shield and block the right moment, and then you can parry them. Like I'm terrible at that. So to me, the Guardians were like, I just didn't fight the Guardians. I just didn't fight them whenever possible.
so going on with the Gloom Hands, yeah, they are very terrifying. And then at a certain point, uh, once when you beat them, they sometimes turn into Phantom Ganon, and that is an interesting fight in itself. Phantom Ganon is one of my favorite reoccurring things in all of Zelda, because it's not quite Ganondorf, but you usually fight him the same way. Um, what did you think about that mechanic?
I mean, you kind of have to get used to it because there's a whole boss sequence where you fight them like as a horde, you know?
The horde one was kind of frustrating. I
Yeah.
wasn't a big fan of that, but fighting one on one Phantom Ganon, I did enjoy.
But what I mean is like the way the game is set up, like if you might encounter these things, and if you fight them, then you fight this special enemy, and that's good practice because eventually we're gonna make you fight a whole bunch of them at the same time. I
Yeah,
appreciated that sort of that thoughtfulness. Like, okay, here's a freaky ass enemy, and put a pin in this. You're gonna need this. You're gonna need the knowledge of how to fight this guy because you'll fight him later, and he won't be alone.
one of the weird, interesting things about Tears of the Kingdom is you have the Nazca lines, uh, which are kind of represented in real life, but these ones have an interesting story to them. I'm trying to remember the canonical reason as to why they weren't in Breath of the Wild, though, and they are here. But at certain points, there are these giant lines that are make a picture on the ground, and you're trying to figure out where this area is that has a pool of water, and that will unlock a cutscene, and that unlocks slowly, bit by bit, the story of what happened to Zelda and why she's just no longer fucking there. Um, and it turns out she went way back in time just by sheer dumb luck accident of awakening her powers to like the first King of Hyrule days, and when Ganondorf was kind of tromping around for the first time. And don't even bother about like looking at the timeline. Timeline's fake, y'all. Hate to tell you this. It's Nintendo indulged us when we begged them for a timeline. Like that's the real reason we got one. There never was planning out this grand scheme. It just was like, well, what are we doing for the next game? And I think there's just being a geek, I think there's this big inherent need to have a good story. And we can blame Star Wars for that. But that's really why we have a fucking timeline, is that we need it all to connect and make a big story. And in this story, she went back in time, and then Ganondorf tried to take over. He failed, and somewhere along the lines, she turns into a giant fucking dragon in order to fix the Master Sword. And that's why you see a fourth dragon around, and you go, "Oh shit! How the hell do I turn her back?" Well, you kind of mentioned it a bit before, but I take it you weren't a big fan of like the Nazca lines and the story as a general, right?
I mean, it's fine. You know, it's not. We kind of talked about. I enjoyed the fact that the game sort of left some mystery instead of just like, oh, go Zelda's right over there, go get her. I appreciated exploring the land and finding out what happened. I would say, I mean, okay, is it a great story? It's a fine. It's a video game story, but yeah, I have to give it credit. At no point did I expect to learn that Princess Zelda swallowed a magic bean and turned into a dragon. And I just did not expect that turn of events. And the fact that that leads you to go up there and climb on her dragon back, not human back, dragon back, and that's where the sword is, like, that was a way cooler moment than, again, in Breath of the Wild, you can find the Master Sword pretty early in the game, but it's this thing that just sits there and it's like, okay, you want this? You need to get all the stuff ahead of time and get really strong, and then you can take it out of the earth or whatever. This is like, no, you got to fly in the sky and find your Zelda dragon, and then you can get your Master Sword, and then you're on the back of a dragon. And the fact that this all leads up to a moment in the end game where you're fighting Ganon, and Ganon's like, oh shit, I'm losing. Well, it's time to eat a bean. And you're like, and you know, as me as a player, I was like, oh no, he ate the bean. He ate the bean.
Yeah, that's a very interesting, like, I would say the interesting part of the entire story, because it's kind of cool to see what happens, and like the intimidating Ganondorf meets Rauru for the first time, and Zelda's like, I think he's evil, and Raru's like, shut up, I know. Um, uh, but they kind of pull a that Doctor Who moment of uh, instead of traveling through time, yeah, she's actually been here the entire time. She just hasn't aged. She just is a mystic dragon with derpy eyes and everything now.
Yeah,
How do you change her back?
I sure hope that in transforming to a dragon, she somehow like lost a level of sentience or awareness. 'Cause otherwise, she's just been sitting flying in the sky for thousands of years. Like that's gonna change your personality. You know, that's not.
I think they did imply that you are no longer you. Period, both mind and body.
I
And
hope so, because like she clearly is your ally because she helps you out in the final battle. But still, like I would hate to think that she went through all that and then you wake her up and she's like, "Oh, it's you." Um, yeah, I have a different personality now because I've been alive for 10,000 years or whatever. I don't. My hobbies have all eroded. I've seen lives come and go. I'm not.
I have
I
seen empires fallen.
Yeah, it's like a Doctor Manhattan moment, but you're not even an alien. You're just you just, you ate the wrong bean. It's just
Which kind of implies, like, are the other dragons, like, did they also swallow the dragon tear as well? Like,
that's
are
a fun
these.
yeah that's a fun experiment. Like
Yeah.
there seem to be a finite number of these dragons flying around. Where did the other dragons come from? Was that a thing? You don't the game absolutely doesn't tell you. It just lets you think about it for yourself.
This time you go to the sky, Hyrule Castle in the sky, Sora in the sky, and then you go down below. This time around, I don't remember a whole lot about exploring Hyrule Castle, which seemed like a huge, big moment in Breath of the Wild. Like, in Breath of the Wild, it seemed like the closest thing to a true dungeon. But in this one, I barely remember it at all. Do you have any thoughts on, like, Hyrule Castle?
I feel like it leads up to the fun payoff where you realize you're exploring the same area at the end of the game that you did at the start of the game. I enjoyed that. Where it's like, oh, we're going where we went before. That's cool. But beyond that, this comes to a problem where I enjoyed Breath of the Wild. I spent many many hours playing Breath of the Wild. I never actually finished Breath of the Wild
Oh,
because of my little problems eventually stacked up to the point where like I didn't want to put up with the nuisance of farming for stuff and buying the arrows and doing all this. Like I went out, I fought all the guardians, I cleared all the stuff. I basically did almost everything in that game you could do, except I never actually beat the last boss. And to me, I feel like it's a testament to how much more I enjoyed Tears of the Kingdom. And that, yeah, I explored Tears of the Kingdom and I did almost everything you can do in that game. And then it's like, okay, let's go into the castle and let's fight Ganon. And I did it. And I fought Ganon and I went through all that stuff and I got the big payoff. And I was like, man, that was a great game. That
yeah.
was my takeaway.
Oh, we didn't even mention, like, when you finish a dungeon, or before you finish a dungeon, you get extra abilities with your companions,
Yep.
kind of very similar, like how you do in Breath of the Wild. But I
But that
do
becomes
like.
the whole thing. Like they're not with you. Like it's a spirit form because in Breath of the Wild they were basically ghosts. Like they
Yeah,
were the champions of the long past. They're dead, but you can hire their ghosts and they'll work with you and help you out in battle like one at a time. I think. Whereas this time around, they're living beings, but they've got their own lives. So they sort of give you like a spirit form that hangs out with you, and then in certain situations the spirit form can help you, but then as part of the final boss Ganon like blows them away or whatever, and then
yeah,
you have this great moment where you're fighting in the end and all the spirits show up, not the spirits, the sages show up, but it's not the spirits, it's the real sages, and then like, you have like a big team up moment where it's like, yeah, we're gonna fight the evil. Like again, the whole climax is full of these great moments. We're like, oh yes, now it's on, now we're doing this, reversals and comebacks. Like the whole climax, I think, is just an emotional roller coaster that I really loved.
yes, and I think this is a much better fight than finding Ganon in Breath of the Wild. Finding Ganondorf. First off, that sword fight with just you and him one on one, that felt really fun to being able to parry and dodge and get him in those openings. But he'd also be like, uh, he would traverse expectations where, like, you do have your opening, and this is where you normally hit a person. Well, he would flip back and dodge out of the way himself, and
Yeah, he could dodge too. That was cute.
yeah, I was like, oh. I hope that won't be too much of a problem, and it wasn't, but it did give a certain extra challenge, and it also made you go, I'm fighting against a pro here, and I fucking love that feeling. Um, and then like the moment you said like he'll summon fucking Phantom Ganons as well, and you are pushed back, and then your friends come and help you, and that's like the second phase of the fight, and then he goes into the third where he swallows the dragon tear, and you have that giant moment of like the, some people love it, some people hate it, and I kind of thought it was the weaker end of the fight because you did mention if you get thrown back, you get thrown back hard. Uh, you, you need to get back up in the sky, fight him in his dragon form, and kind of look for his weak points. It kind of reminded me of like Sonic Adventure 2, like the ending boss of that game.
I think in general, the aerial combat, or at least not the aerial combat per se, but maneuvering in the air and trying to hit precise targets can be a little frustrating because like you're dealing with like large spaces, and this is a game built around physics, so like if you're if you don't have the right trajectory, you're just gonna miss, and you're climbing on things, and like if you're climbing on something and it moves the wrong way, it's possible to get thrown off. But in general, it was, I feel like it lasted just long enough that I was able to get through it. I'm like, okay, some parts of this were irritating, but I won, so screw it.
Yeah. Uh, and through the magic power of bullshit, Zelda gets turned back into a human. Uh, you kind of have that happily ever after moment. Like Ganondorf's dead. He got slain by your hand, and it's all epic and everything. But it's also like, yeah, of course, Zelda's going to turn back into a human, which kind of made me go, I think it would have been a really bold choice if she did not, but obviously Nintendo ain't that fucking brave, so you got what you got. Moving on, was there anywhere in the world, like the ground level, that kind of stuck out to you? I kind of remember the giant ring in Kakariko Village, and they're like, you can't approach this thing because at the time we kind of didn't even mention this. There is an evil doppelganger of Zelda as a puppet going around and telling people to do and not do certain shit and just disappear mysteriously, and that's when you first like fight Phantom Ganon, and that's all really fun. But I remember going to that ring and being kind of frustrated, like, how do I approach this thing? Because no one's letting me fucking near it.
Yeah, I think my big thing, which again had its share of irritations, but my big thing was the thing with the town that was way in the south that gets like taken over by monsters, and you have to sort of expel them. I thought that was a cool thing. And
Oh
then over
yeah, the pirate town.
and then over time, once you expel them, you sort of have to bring them stuff, and they build like instead of Breath of the Wild where they're basically building a new town somewhere and you have to keep bringing them more wood. This was more like this was a town, monsters took it over. If you kick the monsters out, then you get to help them rebuild the town. I thought that was a more interesting spin on that mechanic.
Yeah. I also remember the town you built in the first game kind of has this. It almost seems like a monster truck rally next to it. Like a roller coaster ride or something attuned to that. Uh, that kind of stuck out in my mind. I remember the pirate ship. That was an interesting area. Um, I also love revisiting Gerudo Town. In the first game, that was super memorable because they're like, you basically got to cross dress to enter in there, and they're still kind of. I don't remember if you have to do that again in here, but I do remember like you were still kind of looked down upon. That are like, oh, you're a guy, kind of get the fuck out of here, dude. But the town itself, I always thought was pretty cool because it had that just unique kind of vibe that seemed different than any other town. And I still love Kakariko Village in itself for like the old Japanese vibes. And I found out like when Breath of the Wild first came on, like they were actually modeled off a certain type of house that people in Japan used to build to keep from like flooding. That's why everything's kind of lifted off the ground a few feet.
Yeah, there's been some quotes running around lately about, Japanese games and Japanese game design, and one of the strengths of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is that Nintendo absolutely looked at and embraced sort of ancient Japanese relics and ancient traditions, and then played with that to build the world of Hyrule, and it makes this version of Hyrule like way more interesting than some of the other past versions of Hyrule, Like even the shrines, I'm pretty sure like the architecture of the shrines are based on like prehistoric pottery from like, the Jomon period, I think. Like it's all it's been a while since I took Japanese history even though I live here, but
You mean like the area where Jizo statues were kind of made?
no, it's not a Jizo statue, but it's like it was literally like they found like ancient pottery from like, whatever 5000 BC or something. I'm exaggerating. I forget the date, the timeline, but like they have recovered pottery from very very long ago before, we have any records of what life in Japan was like. So they just have this pottery, and like the designs of those pots, which were sort of like the pots were built by like wrapping fabric or rope around the pot before it was finished. That sort of shape, basically, that's the kind of thing they took and made those little like the little thing on the surface of the shrine that you go into. That's based on real pottery that existed in the past.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
I want to say it's the Jomon period. Yeah, it is Jomon, exactly. It's the ancient Jomon civilization that they use that stuff to sort of shape the worlds of Breath of the Wild, and then of course in turn Tears of the Kingdom. But yeah, I would say the architecture and all these little cultural affect, and I think also the glyphs. Like one thing I noticed, I watched some YouTube videos to sort of refresh my memory, and like part of the finale is like all the sages show up, and their little magic symbols appear, and it kind of looks like it's just like a weird rune or whatever. But if you know Japanese, it actually looks somewhat like kanji. It's not kanji, but like it kind of looks like kanji. So like the wind, the bird has like something that looks like wind, and the shark guy has something that looks like water. And when Ganon activates his power, it looks like darkness. Or like as a Japanese speaker looking at it again, I was like, oh yeah, they kind of have a little bit of a kanji vibe to their symbols. And again, it's just another sign. It's like if you embrace anything cultural and you bring some sense of unique individuality to a project, you're gonna make that project more interesting. And just we're having this conversation, in the midst of people who have like major studios who have made great games are talking about using AI generated like concept art, and it's like no, you idiot! We don't need a computer to generate the concept art. That's the point. You have a person draw the concept art, and then you go from there. I don't want to get too off topic here, but I'm playing a game for upcoming Retro Arts podcast, and in playing the game, I'm unlocking concept art, and looking at the old concept art really is fascinating because it's just like, oh, here's a design that didn't work. Here's a design that didn't work. It's not in the final game, but somehow drawing this person wearing this dumbass costume got them to draw the right costume, and it's the one that we all celebrate today. It's like, that's the point. That's the whole point of making the goddamn video game.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a tangent, but yeah.
No, I love it. I very much agree because art can't come from a computer, even if it's made from other art by other artists. It's just jumbling shit that's already been made, and it poops out something that's not recognizable. There's no soul behind it. Nothing. Period. And we need more art done by actual human beings, even if it's bad art, because bad art can turn into good art eventually.
Also, we kind of haven't talked about it much, but can I just say, considering that the Switch is not as powerful or advanced as, say, the PlayStation 5 or whatever, when the consoles that were already out when this game launched, this is a gorgeous game to look at. It is so pretty. I know I'm not an artist, and I know it's a matter of art direction and shaders and lighting. I know there's a lot of tricks that go into making this look as good as it does, but my point is that this game looks fantastic, even as it's running on a system that Nintendo eventually had to replace because it couldn't keep up with modern games. But this is a beautiful game. Like, I remember thinking about this again and again. Like, the one I remember the most is like when I was swimming up the waterfall to get to an island in the sky, and like you can pan the camera around, and like you can get like the sunset reflecting off the water in the waterfall, and you've got like a shadow over your character, and I'm just like, man, this game looks so goddamn good.
And I'm glad you mentioned it because we were going so long into this podcast. I kind of blanked out on the fact that, yes, I played both the regular Switch version when it first came out and retried the Switch 2 version. And I guess there is a bit of a debate. Is it worth the $10? I would say so. But the changes that I got were like all the textures just loaded it faster. And that's really the only noticeable difference I had, but I still think it's absolutely worth getting the Switch 2 version because this game does look fucking amazing, especially for the hardware that it's on. And that's good old just Nintendo magic of knowing their limitations and also knowing exactly where those limitations are since they made the hardware themselves. But that's a different discussion.
Yeah,
Um,
and also, especially if you consider the fact that Breath of the Wild was essentially a Wii U game that also worked on the new hardware, and
yeah,
Tears of the Kingdom is absolutely building on stuff. So it's like the guts of Tears of the Kingdom are essentially a Wii U game. Like
yeah.
it's got Wii U guts, if you will.
I didn't even
I'm not a
think about
programmer.
that.
I'm not a programmer.
uh, but uh, it is really incredible what the hell they can do because, like, just riding on a horse, watching them gallop, and the motion and the animation they make, and Link swaying back and forth, it's really well designed. Um, and with the Switch 2 version, I remember one day I kind of did everything I could try to either get slow down or try to make things kind of disappear just so other things could run. I actually couldn't do it. I'm kind of impressed on that part. I'm sure somebody's figured it out, but I had different types of machines running, and that's kind of a mechanic we didn't even talk on. Like, one thing you need to do is mine zonite and turn that into battery power so you can power these machines.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that in itself is kind of an interesting mechanic because it's a game breaker. You were talking about how you were struggling with the Gleox. I've seen machines online that just decimate them.
Yeah. Yeah. If you know what you're doing and you build the right thing, you can literally push a button and have the game kill the boss for you.
Yeah, it's a feat of engineering, and so much so that there are engineering classes on in universities that were like, you need to play this game, and they've made fun contest out of it. Like, what's the coolest machine you can come up with within this game?
Yeah,
And
I
I
know
think,
one thing I remember a lot about the early days of Tears of the Kingdom is how people who made video games would just show off clips of something that looked very ordinary and they're like, "Do you have any idea how complicated this is?" And it's like the one that I remember most is like at one point you have to build a bridge in a shrine and like you have to glue things together and like send a vehicle across like through some lava or whatever and it has to drag pieces behind it to build the bridge and all these like different physics objects are basically connected, based on their the engine. And as a game player, I'm like, oh yeah, this makes sense. I built a bridge. But everyone on the internet was like, do you have any idea how many systems have to work together to make this work? And Nintendo makes it look easy.
yeah, I think there was a joke flying around like, if Todd Howard made this game, it would been broken a long time ago.
I mean, there's still a lot of stuff that's weird and doesn't necessarily like I think of another one where it's like you have to build a vehicle that like pushes all these dangerous items into a little hole and then the things all add up inside the hole and push down a weight to unlock a door or whatever. And it took me multiple tries to get all the things to actually fall on the button and open the door, but it's like it didn't matter. It was still like, "Oh, man, this is so cool. This is so cool what I'm trying to do here."
Yeah, nuts and bolts crawled so Zelda can run.
Mm. Much more so than the stupid stuff in Breath of the Wild where it's like you have to tilt the controller and move this, like pretend you're playing a handheld labyrinth game and tilt the controller. Like, no, don't make me tilt the controller. Shut up.
Yeah,
Shut up.
we don't see that stupid shit in Tears of the Kingdom. Thank
I don't
God.
think
But
so. I don't remember any motion controlled puzzles in this game.
I don't
I could have
either.
forgotten, but
Uh, and I replayed a good chunk of this game for review, and I don't remember anything like that.
maybe there's
Granted,
gyro aiming. Maybe there's gyro aiming when you're like using the arrows, but that's probably it, I think.
yeah, and we've been going on for almost 2 hours now, and
Oh my.
there's still so much to this game that we could keep talking about. Like, there's a hidden god in the depths that I thought was very interesting. Because you collect these things called pose, and you're like, well, okay, what do they do? And then you find that thing down there, and you're like, oh, well, this is interesting and eerie and otherworldly, and it gives Lovecraftian vibes, but I kind of love it. Um, there's so many secrets we haven't even talked about. Uh, I still can't recommend this game enough. Diamond, do you have any final thoughts on Tears of the Kingdom?
Well, as a video game, it's fantastic. I really want to know what happens to Zelda from here on out because while Tears of the Kingdom is obviously building on Breath of the Wild, like these two games have a lot in common. I have to wonder Zelda as a series has often, you know, not has not been afraid to change things up. You have every once in a while they'll make a game and it doesn't look like any other game. You're like, "Oh, okay. I know it's Zelda. I know who Link is. I know who Zelda is, but this doesn't look like anything else. This is totally new." I wonder whether Nintendo internally is trying to make Zelda this way now because it's been so popular, or are they going to give us a Zelda in 5 or 6 years that's going to be another completely transformed experience? I mean, I wonder because Nintendo is also getting into the media business more and more these days. We're recording this in advance of a Zelda movie that's supposed to come out in 2027, we can see pictures of the actors on the set. They look like they're doing Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom cosplay, you know? So does Nintendo want this to be the Zelda look from now on because they want to make Zelda into a multimedia franchise? Or are we going to get something crazy new in a couple of years and we're all going to say, "Oh boy, this is a new idea. I love this." I'm very curious because, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean,
Yeah,
I didn't expect Breath of the Wild. I didn't expect Tears of the Kingdom to follow up on Breath of the Wild, but also change things and be this good. Like, do I want a third game just like this? I don't know. Like, I love this game, so I would certainly be interested in a new game. But if you told me the next game didn't have building and didn't have an underworld, but this time Link solved all his problems with a giant abacus, like I hear you out. Tell me what the abacus does. You know.
yeah. I
The
remember.
abacus. I'm sorry. The abacus is copyright. Diamond Fight
Oh,
2025. Do not steal.
I remember Eiji Aonuma saying a couple years ago for this will be the template of 3D Zeldas moving forward. Who knows how long they'll actually last though, and who knows what the next 3D Zelda actually will look like in the long run, because they also did say we're done with the Breath of the Wild timeline for now, and they
Yeah, I don't care
want to
about
kind of,
timelines. Yeah, that's fine.
yeah. uh, well, it's very much like one of the few Zelda games that is a true sequel in itself, like Majora's Mask was, or Zelda 2 was.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I don't think we ever gotten one where like here's the third installment of said game. Um,
Not really. They tend to just reset and move on and do something else.
yeah,
And just borrow some thematic elements. I mean, you could argue that Echoes of Wisdom is like borrowing some aspects of Breath of the Wild, but also borrowing Link's Awakening and sort of mashing them together because Echoes of Wisdom is definitely has a lot of physics to it, and you're sort of figuring out how to put things like you're copying items and figuring out how to use them to your advantage. It's a I was a big fan of that game, but it's not without connections to Breath of the Wild, even if it's very much not a sequel to those games. It's got its own stuff. But it does start at the end of the game. It does start at the end of the adventure, like Tears of the Kingdom, in that when Echoes of Wyndham starts, you're basically fighting Ganon. It's like, oh, we're fighting Ganon first. Okay.
I haven't finished Echoes of Wisdom. I enjoyed what I played, but I just wasn't quite feeling it at the time either.
Hmm.
I was kind of craving something else, and I forgot what my answer was. I definitely should go back though, now that because I played it on the regular Switch, and I'm curious to see if the Switch 2 fixes some of the problems, because I did notice I got some slowdown with the original game.
Yeah, it was definitely it's a late era Switch game, and I would say, unlike Tears of the Kingdom, they didn't quite optimize it for the hardware. So I think from what I've heard, it runs better on the Switch too. So maybe just play it on a Switch too if you can. But I certainly was it. I didn't experience anything game breaking in my playthrough, but I could definitely see the hardware chugging at some points when I
Yeah.
maybe summoned too many monsters to fight for me.
Uh, this coming year, I'll probably go back and restart it again and finish it after I finish Expedition 33 finally. I love that game, but I never played a game so slowly in my life. I don't know why. But where was I? Oh yeah, the final thoughts. And like what you said about the next Zelda game, I personally don't know what to expect, because when AJ Aonuma said that, I don't think they were guaranteed knowingly having a Zelda movie. I think the Zelda movie will be a giant telltale on what they will do next. If it does super super well, like beats Mario Bros. Sales wise, we'll probably get something traditional but with a gimmick because Nintendo absolutely loves to do that. But if it does just as well or a little bit lower than Mario Bros, I bet they will experiment a bit more and we could possibly get more of a sci-fi Zelda game. I just have a weird feeling they'll finally do that because I know Miyamoto wanted A Link to the Past to have this part where it takes place in the future, and that never fucking happened. Um,
You
uh,
know, I agree. Maybe a more science fiction angle to Zelda would be exciting, but also, if you want sci-fi Zelda, why don't you just make more Metroid games? Please,
I agree on that part too,
please.
but Metroid has its own different flavor too because Metroid has the big isolation vibes.
Yes, yes, yeah. I'm just, it's frustrating to me that Nintendo has these, all these different series that it can do whatever it wants with, and we get Zelda games every once in a while, it's a big deal, and we get Mario games pretty regularly, but they're still big deals, and we get Metroid games every once in a while, and it just sort of happens, and it's always like, okay, we like some of this part, but some of it sucks. It's like, oh, god damn it.
Yeah, I uh, I haven't actually played Metroid Prime 4 yet,
No, no,
but
me neither. But
you
I just
either?
did. I recently recorded a podcast with some people who have been playing it, and you know, there's some stuff I like about it, but there's some parts that are just like, what the hell are they doing? Why are we sitting through this again?
Yeah. I personally can't wait to get my hands on it though, because I did a podcast on my own show about the remake, and me and Kevin absolutely loved the remake, the remaster, I should say,
Oh,
on
Metroid
the
Prime One.
Switch. Yeah, of
Okay,
Metroid Prime Run,
yeah, that's
and
it's on my list of games that I absolutely have to get back to.
oh, definitely check it out. I'd say it's worth the money. We already said it on the podcast. Like, yeah, go replay it or play it for the first time on the Switch. It runs super well. It looks better. And while we did have a minor gripe about one thing they changed about the gameplay, in the end, we still agreed. Go check that out. And as well as go check out Tears of the Kingdom. And if you want to go back, I'd say Breath of the Wild as well. I'd say the $10 hike kind of it sucks that it's there, but I'd say in the end it's worth it. Um, Now, obviously, I wish they didn't do the price hike. Period. I think that's an entirely different discussion on its own. But we have to deal with it. So I'd say definitely go for it. Um, Diamond.
Hello.
Uh, uh, where can people find you?
You can find me on the internet. The easiest way to find me is to look up my handle Fight Club, Feit. That is my last name. CLUB. That is a common weapon you can find in Tears of the Kingdom, and you can make it even better by gluing a piece of bone to the front, and then it's a bone club, spike club, whatever you want to do. But yeah, Fight Club is what my handle on most social media. It's also my website, fightclub.me. I'm a freelance writer. I'm a podcaster. I stream video games sometimes. I work a lot for Retronauts. If you know Retronauts, I would say go find Retronauts. But I, as a person, exist on the internet, and you can find me.
Yeah, I have to shout out the Retronauts Discord because that's how I was able to get you. I was really surprised anyone from Retronauts responded to that. I was expecting people on my level to respond to, yeah, I'll be on a podcast with you. So again, I'm stoked that a Retronauts host said yes. So thank you so much, Diamond, for being on the show. Um, as for myself, I am Jordan Vickers. You can find me at the Sage Temple where I have the last game review as well, the last update and review, as well as Old Game Save where we talk about a game from our past and we just talk about the highlights and what was going on in our lives. And we have a very special episode way in September. I can't wait to tell you guys about it, but that one's a bit of a surprise. And you can find me on Discord at Sage Temple. That's just Jordan Vickers for my regular name, the Discord name Sage Temple. I am also looking for people for a third podcast because behind the scenes, I am making my own tabletop RPG. I am looking for people to help playtest it with me as well as record an adventure. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, hey, send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. Uh, check me out at Sage Temple. We are trying to get at other podcasts. I'm trying to get on Apple Podcast as soon as I can. Apple's being a bitch right now and it's like, hey, you don't have an iPhone, so we're not letting you upload. Like, okay, whatever. But anyways, this has been Jordan from the Sage Temple. I hope you guys have an awesome night.
Good night.